Emma is in court to claim £1,500 for jewellery and her children's savings, which she says her former partner stole to fund a gambling habit. Defendant Nathan admits he took the items to fund his addiction, but as he's now turned his life around, he should be given the opportunity to pay the money back.
At some point, several months into the relationship with Emma, your gambling, which, from my intuition, went from a hobby to something more serious, right?
Yes.
How serious did it get, Nathan?
It got to the point where, on one occasion, I stuck all of my wages I earned from work.
More than one occasion.
Just imagine that we're not on a show where there's going to be a lie detector test at the end of it. Understand?
Yeah. On one occasion, I stuck all my wages in, and then when I wasn't in work, there was an occasion where I stuck all my benefits in.
You gambled away your benefits?
Yes, that's correct.
Well, there you are. That's splendid. In other words, you gambled away Michelle's money. And more frightening for you, Ian's money. More frightening than that, mine.
He'd make up excuses like, oh, I've lost my wallet, or I haven't been paid yet, and he'd have no money for weeks on end, or he'd get paid half of what he was meant to, and it was just so obvious. It even got so bad that I had to take his picture into a bookies and say, can you stop this man from coming in here, because he can't support his children.
You kept a box under the bed?
Yes.
And it had what in it?
About £500 cash, a chain necklace, a gold bangle and 2 rings that she'd given me.
She'd given you all of this jewellery?
Yeah.
Now, when Grandma left this to you, did she leave it in a written will or anything of that kind, or was it something where before she died she said, Emma...
Just before she died.
Tell me what she said to you. I want Nathan to hear this.
Because I always admired it, sorry. I always admired it growing up, and obviously she got cancer and got very ill. And when she sat down with me and said, I'd like you to have this because I knew it was your favourite.
You admit stealing the £500?
Yes.
That's the cash?
Yes.
Tell me about the jewellery.
Well, after I lost the cash, I panicked because obviously I couldn't replace it and put it back, which was my intention. I took the jewellery and took it to a market stall where I knew the person quite well because I'd previously bought a ring off him, and he basically lent me £1,200 against the jewellery, which I then...
Was he an official pawnbroker?
No.
He gave you £1,200 for it?
Correct.
And said that you could, for the lot?
Yeah, for the lot.
And said that you could come to get it in what period? He
said he'd give me 4 days, and if I come back with the £1,200 plus £400 interest, I could have the jewellery back.
He sold it?
I'd like to apologise. There's nothing I can do to make up for it, but...
Yeah, but do you realise what you've done?
Did you see what she said about how significant this was to her?
Yeah.
The choice that you made to steal from Emma left her in a situation where the only tangible memory she had of the most beloved person in her life has gone and can never be replaced. That has value beyond anything I could have awarded in this court, which you have robbed her of. Taken it from her. Sadly, I can't recompense her for it. Whatever happens in court today, everything starts and ends with you.
It would have been nice to have been repaid for my nan's jewellery, but I suppose the kids get back their money now, so that's all that matters.
I know you couldn't put a price on the jewellery. No one's ever going to be able to put a price on that. It's got a lot of sentimental value to Emma. I do feel like a bit of a scumbag for actually taking it. Sorry it happened. I feel like a scumbag at the end of the day. There's nothing I can do to repay you.
Are you going to change?
I'm going to try. The fact that I've took money pretty much out of the kids' pockets makes me a rubbish father. And the only thing I can do in time, give it time, is try and make that right by doing as much as I can by the kids and by Emma.
Steve is in court to claim £950 from his former landlady for belongings which were damaged or thrown away after the property he was renting flooded. Defendant Intisar says as the flood damage was caused by Steve's negligence, she owes nothing. She is counterclaiming £3,570 for loss of rent and various other expenses she has incurred.
Do I have Steve here?
Yes.
And, Madam, is it Intisar?
Intisar.
Intisar. Steve, you've brought Intisar to court today because she was your landlady some time ago.
Yep.
In fact, it was roughly, this all happened in 2011. And you say the property that she had legal responsibility for was, for want of a better way of putting it, an absolute disgrace. Let's fast forward. At some point, you went to go and visit a friend, is that right?
That's correct.
Because a friend was ill?
He broke his leg.
What happened when you got back? What was the scene that you discovered?
Absolute nightmare, Judge. Smelt it, burst. I tiptoed in to see where it was coming from, and it was coming from the 4 flats upstairs that used the communal waste, and it was coming up through my kitchen sink.
I see.
There it is.
It's one of the most horrifying things I've seen outside of a horror movie.
Wasn't pleasant, sir.
That's one way of putting it. I'd be less kind. It's disgusting. That's January 2012.
Yeah.
And I see the other photographs you provided. Is that water damage, or was that paint towards the left of the picture always a bit like that?
Just below the window by
Yes,
the
yes. By
table
the
and
cabinet,
chairs.
yes.
That's damp.
Is that the kitchen on the third picture along?
And the orange-coloured picture?
Yes.
Yes, that's the kitchen.
There's some more pictures of the bathroom. Now, Steve, this is extremely upsetting.
So the plumber came and he tried to thread he said there's a lot of oil, dry oil, animal fat stuck in that. And he said, it's, of course, Steve is not being looked after the sink very well. The sink was nice and clean. But of course, the oil, if you fry animal fat, you put it in the sink, it will block it. That's what it is.
You've now got a report from Environmental Health, which you had an opportunity to hear about. Was there ever any heating in that property?
Well, the whole building has got
Was there
electric
ever
heating.
any heating
there
in
is
the property?
Radiators, you know, they use radiators, all of them. Heaters, you know, air and radiators. I didn't buy it you know, I bought it as it is, you know. I bought the whole building. There's 100 flats like this. It's not I'm not the one who can decide for everybody, you know. It's a management company who decide what they're going to do with the building.
What do you say she said?
She said to me, "You've lived on the streets before, surely you can get a sleeping bag and do it again." And that were her words, Judge.
Did you speak to Steve and say something similar to that?
No, never.
Whatever the circumstances and whoever's responsibility she claims it was, ultimately the buck stopped with her. In terms of your claim for the value of property that was taken and held by neighbours, which was Intisar's legal responsibility, I award you the full amount of your claim, which is £950.
Well, obviously, I'm pleased that I won the case, and I don't think she did herself any favours in there at all.
The pictures were awful. I don't know where did you get these pictures from. The flat didn't look that bad, believe me.
I think it's disgusting. She has got absolutely no idea about my health at all.
The judge didn't ask me my life side of story. He listened, of course, to Steve's story. Then he started picking on the pictures. I mean, this is the pictures. It doesn't mean anything. Try to get a job, to get paid, and pay your own way. Don't depend on the council and on the benefits. That's all I can say. I decided not to take any English guy anymore. The reason why, they keep complaining about anything. I'm not saying this flat, the pictures was not very nice. I'd never seen that pictures before because I know the flat didn't look like this before at all.
Lorna is in court to claim £3,404.48 for the amount owed on various loans she's made to her friend, as well as the bank charges she has incurred. Defendant Kim admits she owes the money, but says due to her current circumstances, she has had to prioritise other creditors.
When you went to borrow the £1,350.48, you were in circumstances where you couldn't go to anybody else, right?
No.
Well, why not? Did you have a job?
I did have a job at the time, yeah.
What was your income that time?
Not a lot.
Why did you go to Lorna as opposed to anybody else?
I didn't ask. She offered to lend me it. She offered to help me out because I was in a financial situation that I couldn't get out of.
The first lot of money that I lent her in January was to be paid back at £55 a week.
Did you say that to her at the time?
Yes.
You handed over this money. Huge amount. Did you have all that money? The answer is no.
No, I used my overdraft.
Now, in February, you became aware that Kim was in line to get some compensation.
Yes.
What was that compensation for?
A back injury.
How much?
It was just over 2,000.
Just over £2,000. So, January comes, February comes. On the 5th of February and on the 13th of February, special one being on the 13th of February, you lent her another £1,000.
Yes.
How did you get hold of that money? You didn't have it. What did you do?
I went into my other bank account and used my other overdraft.
You received that compensation money, correct?
Yeah.
What was the total payout?
I think it was 2,300 and something.
Where's the money?
I spent it. Because at the time, we'd already fallen out. The money came through. I had a lot of things that I needed to pay. I was still in a bit of a financial mess.
Do you see how hurt Lorna is?
I do, yeah.
When did you say you had an argument before this happened?
We'd already fell out way before the compensation had come through.
So why does that abrogate you? Why does that dissolve your responsibility to pay the money
It
back?
doesn't, in any way.
But for Kim's admission today, your case would be over. However, because Kim has come to court today and accepted that she agreed to pay this money back and, to some extent, the terms of what that agreement were, then by the narrowest margin, I am able to come to a determination that there was an enforceable contract between you, which means that all of the money you lent her had to come back to you, and you're entitled to it. What's more troubling is that it was difficult for me to come to an understanding of how somebody like you with little money would lend Kim this substantial amount. The answer was because she promised to pay you from the money she was going to get from compensation she was promised. Today she tells me for the first time that she gave that money to people and to other debtors who were more important than you. What you do about that moving forward is a matter entirely for you. I consider that to be entirely dishonourable.
If you'd have just kept in touch with me,
if I was financially able to do it, then I would have
you
given
were
it, wouldn't I?
sorry, it would have
How
been
many
different.
times is it in there, in black and white, that I've said sorry to you?
Yeah.
How many times has I said to you, how bad do I feel? I felt like
You only
and you're
said
making
sorry
you
when I
this.
asked you for
No, I
the
didn't,
money.
Lorna.
I don't think I made a fool of Kim. And if I did, it wasn't intentional.
I couldn't not say what I've just said to her there because that's, you know, it's just not how she's painted it to be. Don't tell me you were struggling because you ain't. Do not make me out to be a bad person here because I'm not. You do not know how bad I felt about that, and I told you relentlessly.
It's not so much about even getting the money back. It's the fact that it's ruined a good friendship.
Be fair, you have gone a little bit overboard with this, Lorna. Totally. I do want to be friends with her, obviously. We've been friends for a long time, and I just think it's silly to fall out over something stupid like this, but I don't think it needed to be done like in this way.
What are we going to do about this? It's 12 years. Want to see if we got some?
Let's have a fight then. Joe.
Paul is in court to claim £835 for the outstanding amount owed for driving his friend to his gigs as a pub singer. Defendant Steve says payment was dependent on him getting paid, and as he didn't always make enough money to cover expenses, he owes nothing.
Steve, you, as I understand it, have had a career in all sorts of different branches of entertainment.
That's right, Judge.
Some time ago, as I understand it, you decided to take your career to the next level, right?
Absolutely.
Where would you perform mostly?
Working men's clubs, pubs, that type of thing.
What was your repertoire?
Party vocalist.
Right, so what's in your repertoire? What sort of songs that I might have heard of?
Amarillo. Tony Christie. Amarillo. YMCA. Grease Lightning.
OK, yes. Not that I'm a little bit concerned that I said, what song have you heard of? And you went through your repertoire and you said, Judge, YMCA?
Sorry, Judge.
Paul, you, as I understand it, became aware that Steve needed to get to his gigs, true? And so you offered a service to drive him to and fro.
I did, yeah.
When did you first offer that service?
It was in May 2014.
How much did you say you would charge him?
Well, basically, at first, it was just petrol money to about £20, something like that.
Now, that's a very generous thing to do for a friend. You offered to just cover your costs and drive him there. Were you particularly also looking forward to the evenings of Steve's singing?
Yes and no. I was at first.
And what was the high point at first? What was his most memorable gig?
Probably one in Evesham, I would think.
What happened in Evesham?
It was the sound system went down and it was pretty awful.
I need a moment. I asked you... what the high point was about driving your friend to your friend's gig.
That probably was
talking! Was it his amazing singing? Was it his Do You Know the Way to Amarillo? Was it his homage to Barry Manilow? Oh, no. The best part is when nobody could hear him. What's the level of the debt now?
£835.
Steve, in many instances, he's taken you to these gigs, so why hasn't Paul been paid?
Well, again, in finances, we are in a recession, Judge. Sometimes I get gigs cancelled last moment, or agents don't pay me.
Paul, you drove Steve to his gigs and you had an agreement, which you both accept, that you would be reimbursed and, in fact, paid for the chauffeur work that you did. You allowed Steve to carry on into credit for 12 months, running up a debt of £835. That was a contract you had between the two of you, which, by Steve's admission, is enforceable. Steve, in reply, you have a legitimate legal point, which is to say that it was always understood, not necessarily by Paul, but by anybody, that he would be paid in circumstances where you were paid. So where third parties have let you down, Paul's no longer entitled to claim his money. The problem with that response, very simply, is that Paul didn't know any of these people and therefore couldn't have formed a legal agreement with them. So the contract he had is purely with you. So even if you've been let down, in law, that's entirely your fault, which leaves me with no other option than to easily come to the conclusion that you're entitled to all your money, Paul. Therefore, this court awards you £835.
Thank you, Judge.
There's a loving in your eyes all the way. If I listen to your lies, would you say, oh, I'm a man without conviction? Oh, I'm a man who doesn't know how to stand the contradiction. You come and go, you come and go. Oh, sing with me.
All together.
Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Thank you, Judge.
This court awards you £835.